you guys, and welcome back to another episode of Brewluminati, the podcast where we drink beer and talk about conspiracy theories. My name is John.
This is Jake.
And welcome back. So we have a great episode for you guys today.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to talk about stuff.
Yeah,
things.
we're talking about apocalypse stuff.
Yes, the end of the world.
Yep. But as always, before we do that, let's talk about beer. Jake, haven't seen you in a while. What's up? What are you drinking? How are you doing? Everything Gucci?
Doing good. Wife, kids, home, living the life.
Right.
COVID,
I don't know about the kids part. I'm like doggy, kitty.
Yeah, well, I got those too. But yeah, it's been a little wild of a time. But life in the time of COVID.
Oh, absolutely, 100% true.
Yeah. So tonight I thought it would be fitting for our End of the World podcast. Not that it is the end of the world, but we're going to be talking about the end of the world.
Yep.
To pick up a Atomic Breakfast Stout, which is a really kind of minimalist designed can featuring a gigantic mushroom cloud on the front.
Yeah, it's kind of like a very basic Argyle kind of jam going on.
Yeah, I dig the Argyle. It's one of my favorite patterns. And this is brought to us by our old friends at Glass Jug Beer Lab.
Oh, we've talked about them before.
Yeah, I believe it was the first episode where we had the stone fruit pie sour. Is that what it was?
Yes.
That tasted like a tea. I think I described it as a tea that had been left on the counter.
The LaCroix beer.
The LaCroix beer, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I really feel like they have redeemed themselves with this Atomic Stout. It's a nice, hearty breakfast stout, and it's kind of everything you would want in a good stout. It's not really out of the ballpark or anything weird or anything different. It's just a very serviceable stout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I say this every single episode. I have such a hard time with stouts. Like, I'm not even sure what would constitute a good versus a bad stout.
I think...
Or a breakfast stout specific.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to chocolate stout, I'm like, does this taste like chocolate milk beer or does it not taste like chocolate milk beer?
Right.
But
it's just a yes or a no tab.
Right. But when it comes to like oatmeal stouts, and that's like a breakfast oatmeal stout or something.
With coffee.
Yeah. I'm always just like a question mark pops up over my head. It's like I imagine the sound effect from Metal Gear Solid is going to go off. It's like blink. And it's like, but the question mark, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's New Belgium right now that has a stout floating around everywhere that's called Coffee is for Closers. And
I hadn't heard that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a very, very... You drink it and it's coffee. Like that's just... obviously by the name. It's just you're drinking coffee. This is clearly a stout. It's clearly very thick and hearty. It has that nice kind of stout mouth feel, as weird it is to use that term.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. A little thick.
Yeah, it's like a little mocha too. There's a little bit of like a chocolatey bit to it.
Okay.
The oatmeal part, I don't know. Like I've been drinking these for years and I don't know where the oatmeal thing comes in, doesn't come in.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of people who could school me on that.
I'm sure.
They have to be out there or else it wouldn't exist.
For sure.
But yeah, overall, I think Glass Jug Beer Lab 100% redeems himself with this. It's a limited release, they're straight out of Durham. And yeah, it's not a LaCroix beer. I'm a fan. So I would definitely, the weirdness of the LaCroix beer we had last time made me want to try more of what they had.
Interesting.
And it led me to this, and I'm very pleased with this. I would keep this in the fridge all the time.
I always go the total opposite direction. Like if I get, maybe not a beer, but if I get 1 or 2 or 3 beers from a brewery and I don't like any of them, I'm basically done. I'm over it.
You get burned and you run screaming from the scene.
Yeah, like at that point, people are going to be like, "What do you think about this brewery?" I'm like, "I had half their beers," or like, "I had 2 or 3 out of the 50 beers they make, and they are garbage."
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but first impressions, and I'm going to go after the beers that, to me, are the easy ones for me. You know what I mean? I'm going to go after your IPA. If your IPA is bad, I'm sorry, but I'm probably not going to get past that.
That's a solid point. It's like, God, what's that guy's name? Gordon Ramsay. Like he has the cooking shows, and when he brings people on his shows, like his reality show, I think it's Hell's Kitchen or whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's like, make me an omelet.
Yeah.
And if you mess up an omelet, That's a big problem. You know?
Yeah, like if you fuck up an omelet for Gordon Ramsay, you're not getting any further. He's just
Right.
going to call you a stupid sandwich and, it's
Right.
going to be over.
And I mean, like an omelet is a pretty basic thing, just like an IPA and a stout are pretty basic things.
I'm trash at making omelets.
I am too. I can make a mean scramble. I will throw cheese and all kinds of chunks of stuff you want to eat into it. But an omelet, I suck at flipping them.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely terrible at omelets. Like fried eggs, you want it over easy with a runny yolk? I fucking got you. You want some scrambled eggs? I got you. You want like a breakfast bowl? I got you.
Yeah.
Omelet? I'm fucked.
Yeah, it's
100% screwed. There's no way you're gonna get a nice looking omelet. It's gonna look like it's gonna be scrambled eggs.
Yeah, I always go scramble. I don't even bother with the omelet. It's and I'm actually garbage at doing what is it, sunny side up with the runny yolk. I don't even know. I rarely cook eggs, so I don't know the difference. Like the runny yolk, but it's over and it's got the white film on it, whatever that is.
Yeah, so sunny side up is just a fried egg where you don't flip it.
Right.
Because it's got like the white, it's like the very translucent looking white on top. And then you have the very nice like orange colored yolk on top.
I can't do that.
I like over easy, which is basically like where you fry it and then instead of like leaving it unflipped, you flip it so it fries on the other side.
Right.
And then it's totally runny in the middle. And then one level up from that is over medium, where you cook it just a little bit longer to where instead of the yolk being like super runny, it's like, so it's still liquid, but it's like a thick liquid. It hasn't gone full like cream.
It's not solid yet.
White, yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't and like has that horrible sulfury smell from overcooked eggs, which I don't understand hard boiled eggs. I don't understand hard fried eggs because like that sulfur smell and taste is just horrible.
People get weird with eggs.
Yeah.
People get weird with eggs. They'll just do like 10 eggs in a pint glass and drink that down. But then also they'll just eat like 10 hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah, I hate hard-boiled eggs. And I hate deviled eggs. Everybody gets all mad at me about that.
I'm okay with deviled eggs. They're all right.
Like
I'll have
almost any professional cooking book or instruction class anywhere that you do or any professional chef out there is basically going to be like, hard-boiled eggs are garbage because a fully cooked yolk is trash. That's like that breaks like every egg cooking rule in the book. But then people are like, deviled eggs are amazing. I'm like, you are garbage and your deviled eggs are trash. Like, get out of my face.
See, I like deviled eggs, but what I like more is the egg you get in like a ramen.
Yes, that's what I was trying to think of. It's like
that's
like
not
a
poached. What so
that's
soft boiled.
Yeah, it's a pickled soft boiled egg.
Yeah, I like that.
There's a name
that's
for it. It's like a tonketsu egg or something like that. I can't remember the exact name, but I always get more than one. I always get extra tonketsu eggs or whatever.
You're like, listen, I'm gonna spend the $1.50. Drop another egg in there.
Oh, absolutely, because like most ramen will come with either half or one.
Yeah,
either one half or two halves. So like a whole egg or whatever.
Okay.
And I'm always like, nope, I need 2 whole eggs. Do you
have the down low on ramen in Raleigh?
Yes.
Is there a place?
Oh yeah, dude. Absolutely. There's a place in Raleigh. It used to be where I get tattooed sometimes. Is this tattoo shop called?
Sometimes?
Yeah. I mean,
occasionally.
I get tattooed all over the place. Okay. Different shops, different artists and stuff. But a buddy of mine, he doesn't anymore, but he used to tattoo at this shop called Double Deuce. And
I've driven. I know where that is.
Yeah, it's like Harrison Avenue and Maynard. Yeah, kind of area. There's like an AutoZone over there and a bunch of. There's like a mini Walmart and shit. But yeah, right in that same parking lot. And they're not there anymore. They moved, but that's how I got introduced to that ramen spot because my buddy was like, "This place has dope ramen," and I've tried ramen all over Raleigh and pho, which ramen is the superior noodle soup to pho. Sorry. Again, get out of my face. Pho sucks compared to ramen.
Pho has the better puns though, all the time. Like there was a place we used to go to in LA called 9021 Pho. And it was
that's funny.
It was in Beverly Hills, so it was.
Oh my god, they went full pun on that one.
Yeah. In LA, you have to. It's like you won't get a license to serve pho if you don't do that.
Really?
Yeah,
that's funny. A buddy of mine who lives in Chicago, he was always like, it would be so fantastic if there was to be a pho restaurant and it was Pho King.
I'm sure there has been. There has to be.
I know at this point, I feel like that has to be a thing, but how funny would it be to see like Pho King and then people are like, it's pho. And you're like, oh, the restaurant's called Pho King.
I get it.
Fucking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this place is called Noodle Boulevard. and it's fucking great. Now they're in Cary Crossroads, like right near your house.
That's where I've seen it.
From,
Okay, yeah.
Across from the REI.
There's an ice cream place right now. There's a Cold Stone or something right now. I know where you're talking about over there.
It's not
There's
actually
like a crepe
in
place.
Crossroads.
Oh, it's not in the Crossroads?
No, it's not actually in Crossroads. You know where REI is?
Yeah.
It's right across the street from REI, like kind of down from the Cookout and that gas station.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. So it's right across the street from there. And I mean, they have every kind of ramen you could want. They have rice bowls. They have all kind of great shit.
That's like 2 blocks from my house.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. You can't be telling me that. Like, I literally live right there. That's like so dangerous.
Yeah. So like, and this place is kind of cool. Like they have, it's like the Asian grandchildren and the Asian grandmothers.
Okay.
When you go in this place, it's like 90-year-old Thai ladies and then their grandchildren.
Perfect.
Like that's who's in this place.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and all the ramen is amazing, and they ask you how spicy you want it, and I've like straight up just been like, okay, so if 1 is like white people or 0 is like white people spicy, how hot is the hottest? And they're like, too hot. You don't want to do that. And I'm like, okay, let's do
like you're too pale for this.
Yeah, they'll say out of 0 to 5 stars, how spicy do you want it? And I'm always like, let me do. I think the hottest I've ever done was 3, and I figured out that was a huge mistake.
Out of 5.
Yeah.
I don't get hot food. Like I never have. I mean, I'm from Indiana originally.
Yeah.
So like,
I mean,
pepper,
full on Midwest white people.
Pepper on mashed potatoes is too much for me. So it's
that's my wife's dad too. He's like, pepper's too much spicy.
Yeah. Like get the pepper. I'm going to sneeze and it's going to burn my tongue and I don't want it. But like even sriracha, like I can't do it. Like,
I can do sriracha as long as it's like sriracha for flavor and not sriracha for burning my asshole.
I didn't know there was a different level.
I mean, it's just like how much sriracha do you put on?
It's
you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like if you put like little dribbles on there, or you know what I mean, and so you're getting the sriracha flavor, but it's not like lighting you on fire.
Yeah.
I will do that.
Yeah,
I see people who are over here like spraying the siracha on there like it's ketchup.
Yeah.
I'm like negatory.
Yeah, I can't do any of that stuff. It's disappointing to me, but it's also I wish I could. I have lots of friends who are like deep into peppers and love all that stuff, but
yeah, I have a number of friends who are really into hot stuff. Like they like to collect hot sauces. They're always like, I want to get the wings that are so hot you go deaf after you eat them or whatever.
Jesus Christ. Why would you want to do that?
I mean, I don't know. I'm like, I've done it. Like I've done wing challenges and it's like you take 1 bite out of the wing and like you just immediately get flushed. You can't hear anything. Like I'm like, I down an entire Yingling in like 0.2 seconds while I'm sitting there.
I don't get the point.
I honestly don't get it.
Is it bragging rights? Because like I
have a feeling it's something like that.
We could sit there and do bloody knuckles or something and like I'm fine with that, but I don't want to do like, I don't want my mouth to be.
Well, because what I don't get is is it really enjoyable for you? You know what I mean?
Right. That's the question.
It's like that YouTube channel where they do the hot wings stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I just don't get it. Like I want to enjoy eating 19
They don't
wings.
look like they're having fun.
I don't want to be shooting fire out the
back door. I mean, that's a whole,
like I'm just not
other part of
into
it. Yeah.
So anyway, so the Thai ladies will ask how many stars, and I've more or less settled on, depending on how spicy white boy I'm being, whether I want to do 1 star or 2 stars. If I really want to like
out of 5
have like a nice cozy evening in with my gigantic bowl of ramen, I'll do 0. But if I'm because like the ramen that I get, it's not a very traditional ramen. It's their chicken curry ramen. And so it's like a coconut milk curry.
I like the sound of that.
Broth base, and then it just has like all the noodles in it, and then it has chicken in it.
It's like
a
chicken based broth.
Yeah.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, and it's really super good. Like the coconut milk makes it really thick and rich, and then
like a Tom Kha kind of situation.
I'm not sure what that is.
It's a Vietnamese coconut soup. It's pretty tasty.
I think
it's
good.
Thai. I think it's Thai. Yeah, go to the Indian Thai place off of Maynard over by that Taco Bell. I can't think of the name of the area.
Is it the Himalayan Nepali?
No, it's near that though. It's
that place is lit.
Yeah, that place is amazing. This place is off of like Kildare and Maynard.
Oh, a whole
Thai
other
spice
side
or something like that. Yeah,
I think I've heard of it, but I haven't had it.
And they have amazing like Tom Kha and pad thai. Their pad thai is out of control.
Okay, I'm super into pad thai. Rachel's super into pad thai because she's she's gluten free.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And pad thai, because the noodles are rice noodles.
They also have this dope thing where they like take these gigantic jumbo tiger shrimp, slit them open, stuff them with crushed up fried chicken for some reason,
Okay.
and then bread the whole thing and drop that in a fryer. And it probably takes a year off your life,
Okay.
but it's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it's,
sold.
yeah.
I'm like getting all hyped up now. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you
ooh,
gotta
yeah.
go. You gotta go get it. It's incredible. We'll go there. It's really
yeah.
good. You walk in, they're really. It's like it's a really good Thai place when you walk in. They're rude to you right off the bat, and you gotta like navigate
What you
how to
want?
deal with them.
Get
Yeah.
the fuck out of here.
Right. You're like, I just want to give you money and take my shit and go.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this ramen is just super dope. And I think what I figured out is like each star is how many spoonfuls of chili oil they put in.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like
You're cracking the code.
Yeah, because if I get the ramen and it's a 0, if you eat it in the store, you can't tell. But like if you bring it home, they put the noodles in one thing, and then they put the broth in a totally different thing.
Gotcha.
And so by the time you get it home, it's like kind of separated. You got to mix it up. But you can see like how the chili oil is like orange colored and it's separated.
You can see your destruction swirling upon the top. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But you can see like the orange oil swirling around in this very yellow
it stands out.
broth.
You can see it.
Yeah, and if I get 0, there's no orange in it. But if I get like a 1 or 2, there's more and more of this orange swirling around in it after I like mix it up and stuff. But yeah, it's so good. It's like curry chicken noodle soup. And it's just so good. And like after I'm done eating it, I'm so full and I'm so warm and
the day is over.
Happy, and I'm just like, put me to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. I get
I'm
it.
done.
I get it. Yeah. That's good stuff. Yeah.
But no, it's super good.
All right. Well, on that note, what beer are you drinking over there?
All right. I have been practicing the name of this beer for like the last hour because I'm trying to make sure I say it right. And I'm almost 100% sure that I'm going to fuck it up. But what I am drinking is a beer that my wife surprised me with, and pleasantly surprised. It's pretty tasty. It's from Brewery Omegang. Did I say it right?
Omegang.
Omegang. Yeah, because it's O, like the letter, meh, like the beginning of a word that starts with meh. I can't think right now. It's not me, so it's not Omi gang.
Right, meh.
It's like a meh.
Just meh.
Meh gang.
Yeah.
And then gang like a group of
It's a funny
people.
word.
Yeah, that's what it says on their website.
Belgium.
Oma gang. Yeah. So it's from Brewery Oma gang in Cooperstown.
Cooperstown.
I'm done.
Where baseball's from.
Cooper. Is that really where baseball's from?
I mean, I've heard people say that.
I don't know. From Cooperstown, New York, which you apparently know where that is.
Yeah, I've been there.
And it's called Neon Rainbows, a hazy IPA. And
also kind of Argyle feeling.
Yeah.
There's a similarity in these two. Yeah.
Yeah. When my wife first brought it to me, my first kind of reaction to it was, oh, this is like a neon Harlequin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a little more like a neon Argyle, like you just said, than a neon Harlequin.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool can. I mean, it's got like a tan.
It's like the 80s baseball card hologram of Argyle.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it definitely has this like, I don't know what it's called. Like when they heat treat stainless steel to make it change colors.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? It's got like that kind of a deal going on where each one of the triangles is like a fade. So it's like most of the can is this sort of khaki kind of color. It's a fratty khaki kind of color.
Right.
And then each of the different triangles or diamonds, it's like a yellow to pink fade. And then there's like a bluish turquoise green to yellow orange fade. And then
I was going to say, we'll put up a photo, but I don't think there's any way that can be captured in a photograph.
No, because it has this kind of like pearlescent color changing kind of thing going on to it, but not really.
I would love a car that color. I would drive that.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Like I feel like I've always thought it would be really cool to have a car that was painted pearlescent, but I don't know that they could do the colors that I would want.
What colors would you want?
I would want it to fade from like a really deep blue purple to like a really bright burnt orange, like a burnt bronze.
Maybe.
Kind of color.
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know if they could do that or not. Yeah.
But
that would definitely be a wild
I mean, that's the kind of thing you could do on like Need for Speed Underground when you're like
Yeah.
making your
Yep.
own car and like making
Yeah.
goofy ass colors that could never exist.
I mean,
And-
yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so back to this I'm a Gang
Yeah.
Neon Rainbows Hazy IPA.
From Cooperstown, New York,
That's right. I like it.
the home of baseball,
I like it. Allegedly.
allegedly.
It has a description on here, which I'm going to read.
Let's hear it.
It says Neon Rainbows bursts with hop-driven notes of tropical fruits, citrus, and hints of pine.
Okay.
The hops include Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe, Centennial, and Topaz. The first round of dry hopping is Citra and Mosaic, followed by the second round of Topaz and Simcoe.
Interesting.
Pretty
standard hops. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually more or less pretty closely agree with their assessment here of what this is supposed to taste like. So it says hop-driven notes of tropical fruits and citrus, hints of pine. Absolutely. Like it doesn't have that super stank kind of kind of like weed hop jam going on. I don't feel like it has a lot of tropical fruit and citrus. But hop driven and piney, 100% agree. I can see the tropical fruit and citrus. I get it. It's not super duper forward. So it's definitely still has that like hoppiness, but without the weed stank. It has that kind of like almost like pine sap sort of kind of flavor to it. You know what I mean?
Have you ever had Scottish ales? Like Scottish, they taste like pine trees.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some Scottish ales, some like wee heavies and stuff like that. More of that.
I've
like,
had a few. They all taste like pine trees, but it's just kind of an interesting.
I don't know that I've ever thought that. It's been like a million years since I've had one.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was in Scotland and I had a bunch of different beers and all of them taste like pine trees. And I don't know why that was, but
yeah. Well, maybe
I had a stroke. I don't know.
I think that's toast.
Oh yeah.
You smell
fudge?
toast.
Is it fudge or toast?
No, I think you smell toast.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, does anybody smell toast? Oh.
But yeah, so I'm a gang.
I'm a gang. That's it. I'm a gang. No,
I've known about them forever. Like it's when I used to live in Pittsburgh, and we would travel across the Pennsylvania-Ohio border to go to a Wegmans.
I love Wegmans.
Which, we're just getting Wegmans down here, but up there it's like they've had them forever. So like we would go there and they would have an amazing beer selection. And one of the things is they would always have bombers of like really amazing Amagang beers. And some of my favorites was my three favorites that they had were one, they had Gnome Gang, which I want to say it was like a quadruple Belgian
Gnome
heavy.
Gang.
Yeah, Gnome Gang.
The gnomes come out of nowhere and beat the shit out of you.
Exactly, which is Gnome Gang is Amagang split up, whatever they call that, an anagram or whatever.
Yes, an anagram.
Yeah.
I think.
And then they had Three Philosophers, which is a really great beer that you can get in the Northeast very easily. Pretty much in any grocery store they carry it. But my favorite beer they make is called Witte, Witte, which is like some sort of, it's like a heavy blonde ale of some sort. And and it's just great. Like I don't remember. It's been years since I've had it, probably like 8 to 10 years, but
yeah,
just one of the best beers. I remember I went to a wedding and they had like special craft beers and they had them all set aside and they had a couple of those and I was just like, it's go time.
It's go time. Yeah. I know people are out here being like, let's get the fancy beers. And if you came to my wedding, oh man, if any one of you was like, I just want to grab cheap beer out of a horse trough full of ice while we're standing on the side of a mountain ready to get country fucked up, welcome to my wedding. Because that's exactly what we did. Like I had barbecue and hush puppies and all of the shit that comes along with Carolina barbecue. And I had horse troughs full of like PBR and Bud Light and Miller Lite and like Yingling and shit. Like I was just like, here's 95 cases of beer. Everybody get fucked up.
Dig in. And, we did our wedding. We were in Key West on Duval Street.
Oh, that sounds cool.
And we were upstairs of this really famous old school Key West restaurant. And it was called 919, I think. something along those lines.
That's surprising since now you live in
Yeah,
the
it might not be
919.
919. It was something like that though. I'm probably just thinking it because that's where we live now. But the upstairs was this whole like cool bar event space area. And when we were touring it, the guy was like, "Hey, you guys will have a fully open bar, have whatever you want, anything. It's all part of the deal." It was pretty cheap. It was like $3,000 for the whole night or something.
Oh,
Like,
dang, that's not terrible at all.
very surprisingly.
Including open bar and everything.
Open bar for like 5 hours or something.
This dude fucked up.
Endless amount of money. I mean, appetizers. They just kept bringing out appetizers all night long.
Yeah.
Food, desserts. They made like part of a big cake for us and stuff. And so the big part of the night was when we were kind of like getting toasty, and it was like the big dance off. Everybody's partying and they're playing "Come On Eileen" and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And at one point, one of my friends goes up to the bar, and before the evening had started, he said, "Everything's open bar except for that bottle up there." And it was like Louis XIV whiskey or something.
Okay.
Incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And
because that shit's like $280 an ounce or something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so my buddy came up and saw what it was and was like, "Hey, anything goes." And the owner was doing the bartending up to that point, and he had stepped away, and some random person came in.
Oh, no.
And my buddy was like, "That bottle, 13 shots, line it up." And
Oh,
the person's just
no.
like, "For sure." And they
Oh,
get
no.
like a step stool and climb up to the top and pull it down and just like literally do the like drag across, fill 13 shot glasses.
Like the Tom Cruise and
and they're like
movie
spilling,
Cocktails.
Yeah, they're spilling like $200+ an ounce like whiskey across this stuff, and like,
Oh my God.
and he just starts handing them out, dropping the shots and stuff, and like it never came up, but it was definitely like that was going to be an issue,
Yeah. Yeah. So the owner never came back and was like, "Hey."
We talked to him. I went back the next day because they had the top of our wedding cake in their freezer. And so I had to go back and face them the next day,
and
knowing
get
what
it.
happened and
Yeah.
thinking like, "Oh, I'm never going to get this piece of cake back. It's going to be a thing."
Right.
Went back. The guy didn't mention a thing. He was just like, "Hey," he probably didn't notice.
He just
to be
fired
honest.
that bartender
Right, just
and lost
murdered the
$3,000
yeah.
in just Louis XIV.
Yeah, because the only reason I knew what the liquor was because my uncle had told me about it, because he was at a bar in Vegas and somebody had ordered the last ounce of liquor that was in it, and apparently there's some sort of tradition where if you get the last ounce, you get the bottle, and the bottles are very valuable.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so
And this is a Vegas thing?
no, I think it's like an everywhere. I think it's like part of that liquor's tradition. Like
Oh,
I think
okay.
they do that everywhere. I might be
Oh,
wrong.
I don't know.
But it definitely happened in that place in Vegas, and he told me about it and showed me a picture of it, and so like
Oh,
so I
cool.
knew what it was.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but I watched her throw it in a trash can.
Oh, wow.
Like dump the liquor on the table, throw it in a trash can,
Oh, wow.
and pass
my
out the shot
God.
glasses.
That's
Yeah.
very sad.
Yeah, it was
somebody
crazy.
out there is like hurting inside. They're like crying about this. Yeah.
Or it just never came up. I mean, I hope that's the case. So, but yeah, Amagang, super cool stuff. I highly recommend Wit, or it's probably pronounced Vit. If you come across it, it's like a Belgian company, so
Yeah.
it goes that way.
Yeah.
From the home of baseball, Cooperstown, New York, allegedly.
Yeah. And I mean, these are cool. Oh, I forgot to talk about like the stuff. So, I mean, of course, this is a pint, like, craft beer stuff. It says serve at 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's probably the temperature of this garage right now.
Probably because I left this beer out here on the table we're recording on because, fun fact, COVID life, we record in my garage right now. So if you guys ever hear background noise and stuff like that, sorry, I'm doing my best.
We're trying very
We're
hard.
trying so hard. And yeah, so I've left this beer out here on this table for a little while, and it's probably 40, 45 degrees.
It's
something
43
like that.
outside right
Yeah.
now. I just checked.
6.7% alcohol.
Not
So
bad.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say I enjoy this a lot. I would absolutely drink it again.
Yeah.
For sure. I like it. It's not 100% right up my alley. I mean, so this is a New England style IPA.
Sure. Yeah.
It has a whole lot more pine in it than
Yeah.
I feel
They don't
like
do a lot of IPAs
most.
from what I've seen, at least. I may be wrong, but
Gang doesn't.
but again, it's been years since I've seen any of their
Oh,
stuff in
okay.
stores.
Yeah, I mean, It's a little more pine forward than I feel like I think New England style IPAs
Where'd your wife get it
usually
from?
are. I have no clue. I don't ask questions. When my wife brings me beer,
Smart.
I say thank you.
Smart. That's the way to do it.
Fun fact, if your wife or girlfriend ever brings you beer,
Just thank you.
just say thank you.
That's all you got to
And
do.
take it and eventually drink it and then tell her how great it was.
It was delicious.
Which, I mean, she scored on this one.
She did. Yeah.
You know, this
She'll
is
get
great.
a shout out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We'll put her name in the show notes. Give her a little shout out.
Yeah. I mean, I would absolutely drink this again, and I would love to try more stuff from these guys. Like, this is great.
So I know the Total Wine over by in the Crossroads.
Yeah.
They have a couple. I saw them when I was over there the other day. They have a couple things.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend at least getting at Three Philosophers. I think.
Okay.
They only sell them in like the 22 bombers.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend grabbing one.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to check that out.
So are you familiar with the term soft open? Like if a place has a soft open, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, so if a restaurant has a soft open, whatever, they invite a couple of their friends and they just have a kind of easy night to begin with.
Yeah. Like a buddy of mine was the bar manager at for Gonza. Their original location was in Durham. And so when they did the soft open on the Gonza in Cary,
Okay.
you know, the one over there.
Yeah.
Where like that weird movie theater where you can eat dinner and shit is.
Right. Yeah.
Like we went in there like 2 or 3 times and had free dinner because they were like trying out the cooks and making
cool.
sure
Yeah.
that the menu is ready and getting free drinks and having the bartenders practice
That's
and
awesome.
shit. Yeah.
So that's literally what a soft open is. When you're kind of trying to figure things out and place like how things are going to work. And that's what basically are dealing with COVID is right now for the apocalypse. So we're kind of doing a soft open for the end of the world. We're
cool.
Yeah, we're poking around, we're figuring it out.
Well, there's been so many memes around where it's like, if you imagined what you would do during The Walking Dead,
right,
you're doing it right now.
Exactly. Yeah, like you're just hanging out at home and watching Tiger King.
I know.
And so the soft open of the apocalypse with COVID has kind of been obviously a big deal for all of us this entire year, where we've been locked in our houses trying to figure out this pandemic, and we're looking at, now new strains are coming around and all these super terrifying things with the vaccine.
COVID version 2.
Exactly. Yeah. What is it? COVID 2 Electric Boogaloo is on the way. And,
oh my God.
Right. And so some younger people like, Generation Z, millennials, a lot of them are kind of getting their first taste of what a soft open to the apocalypse can be.
Apocalypse 2020 looks like.
Yeah. So going back to like my younger generation, like when I was a kid, early 90s, late 80s, I had people like my grandfather who was constantly convinced that the Cold War was going to blossom into a full nuclear explosion any minute.
Yeah. Duck and cover, nuclear winter. Soviets are going to launch bombs from Cuba.
Yeah.
Cuban Missile Crisis, all that kind of crap.
100%. I mean, my parents were straight up convinced that the nuclear apocalypse was coming any minute, and this was before Y2K. And so,
yeah,
my family built up to Y2K being this actually really big problem. Like we all thought it was going to be serious.
I mean, I remember being a kid and people being like, "Oh God, or is it going to be, New Year's 1999?
Right?
Are the clocks going to turn and all the lights are going to go out? Like the banks are going to shut down? Like everybody was like freaking out about it."
Yeah, like so it was a real concern. There were actual people out there that were worried about it on a basis leading up to it, and they were scared. There was a lot of scary stuff happening. I mean, in the back of certain magazines, there were like prepper food, and preppers weren't a thing like they were now. Like preppers were guys who went to gun shows and they had like MREs stacked up in their garage.
Yeah, they had like when you go to gun shows, you can buy those little like radiation monitoring kits and stuff like that.
Yep, 100%, exactly.
You can get iodine pills and shit.
Yeah, and the life straws and like the different ways.
Oh, life straws are so cool. If you do any kind of outdoorsy shit, you should have a couple of life straws.
Definitely have life straws. They're worth every penny. So Y2K was a really big fear, and for people who were tuned in to the whole apocalypse theme, and people who were more tuned into conspiracy theories, the whole Y2K lead up was really pushed by Alex Jones and like InfoWars coming up at that time.
Yeah.
Very early days. If you tuned in to Alex Jones on December 31st, 1999, you were treated to a couple hours of him sitting in a studio talking about how planes in Germany were falling out of the sky. As the time zones were changing, nuclear energy plants were exploding. He was talking to people in Colorado and Seattle, and he was bringing them on the show. And all of these people were like, oh, yeah, mushroom cloud in my backyard. This is happening.
What?
Yeah. And Alex Jones was straight up like, oh my God, we're all dying. This is happening. And he went on for hours just saying that ATM machines were exploding, skyscrapers were falling out of the sky, and like all these big problems were happening. And he just kept going and going and going all December 31st, 1999. And people got freaked out. It was kind of like for the conspiracy theory group, it was a little bit like War of the Worlds back in the day with Orson Welles. Like,
yeah, like live on the because what you're saying is Orson Welles did a live reading where he read War of the Worlds over the radio.
Right.
For people who didn't know that had happened.
And people were worried. There was a scare that the aliens were actually landing. They didn't understand.
Yeah.
And so people that were listening to Alex Jones thought planes were falling out of the sky and ATMs
was this like an entertainment thing? Was he doing it like as a jest, or was he over here being like trying to make people think the apocalypse was like upon us?
He was being Alex Jones is what he was doing,
so being a huge douche.
Right. And even to today, like last year, Alex Jones was in front of a judge and said that there's no way people can construe what he's doing as news or opinion. Like he's clearly a character.
I don't believe that. I think there's absolutely people who believe every word that he says.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what he said in front of a judge. And then when people point that out to his listeners, they say, oh, he was just putting on an act, So, but anyways, yeah, I mean, you can go to YouTube right now and just search, Alex Jones, December 31st, 1999. And if you want a really interesting take on it, there's a really amazing video of Bill Cooper, or a recording of Bill Cooper from January 1st, 2000, going over what Alex Jones was saying. And, Bill Cooper is kind of the godfather of conspiracy theories. He wrote Behold a Pale Horse. He's looked at as like the king of conspiracy theories by people like Wu-Tang Clan and all these really influential rappers. Big dude. Some people should pay attention to him. And he tore Alex Jones apart on this radio show.
That's awesome.
Just made fun of him for 3 straight hours. And, Alex Jones got away with it. He kept doing his thing and kept going on doing the same sort of thing. And, people just kind of ignored Y2K. They realized the end of the world didn't happen and they just moved on. And then 9/11 happened, and so 9/11 came in, and there was a lot of people that thought after these airplanes smashed in these buildings, there was going to be nuclear war, like right after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's basically what got us into Afghanistan was this whole fear that, the buildings coming down were the precursor to something way worse.
Yeah. I mean, and it was a pretty safe thought to have. Like if you go back and look at all of the media people were being fed up to that point, and look at fictional media, look at all of the books and movies that were coming out through the 80s, there was a lot of kind of apocalyptic fiction that was brewing,
Yeah, I mean, and especially if we look back at, Cold War era, Cuban Missile Crisis type stuff, people were just, the year before getting fucked up about Y2K. Yeah. How easily, like how little number of, mental and moral backflips you would need to do to believe that 9/11 was the precursor to, nuclear weapons destroying the world,
Yeah. And this is pre-social media. So, I mean, people weren't even like on Twitter riling each other up,
Yeah, they just needed Alex Jones to be like,
right,
nuclear war's coming this time for sure.
Yeah.
You can believe me this time.
And he did that a lot. Yeah, for sure. And so, And I mean, I highly recommend going back and listening to that YouTube of him talking about Y2K happening. It's really eye-opening and crazy, and it's worth a listen.
Yeah. I'll
Um,
have to check it out.
yeah. So, and it reminds me a lot of like my family during that time is, my family weren't these kind of apocalyptic people, but my parents directly were very kind of like biblical revelation kind of people. Like,
They were like fire and brimstone.
oh yeah,
types.
100%. Like, and they weren't even religious. They just really thought like the religious apocalypse was going to happen, and they didn't go
Oh
to
wow,
church.
that's crazy.
Yeah, so they just
That's a little backwards.
it is. I think they had just accepted that stuff was messed up and something was very wrong, and it was coming to be fixed.
Sure.
Somebody was going to set it straight.
Okay.
And yeah, they just ran with that. And so they had this whole idea that there was going to be this gigantic kind of flipping of how things were going to work, and the bad people were all going to go to hell, good people were going to go to heaven. In the meantime, a lot of people were going to be stuck in the middle. And
It was gonna be like a Left Behind.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were very much into like the whole Left Behind thing because
My parents loved that book series, and I was always just like, "This is dumb."
yeah, I got mono and read the entire Left Behind series in like like a couple days.
That's hilarious.
I think it was 13 books, fitting number.
Holy
and
crap.
Read the whole thing in a few days, and it was just garbage books. Fun little storyline, but you could have told the whole thing in
2 books.
50 pages.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, not even 2 books.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at the whole biblical apocalypse and the history of it, which really goes back, I mean, to biblical times, to not play that short, but going all the way back to 66 AD, which is the first time that somebody really said the world is going to end. That was the point where they were like, this is going to happen, world's ending. Keep in mind, this is after Jesus came and went, on that timeline that they discuss. And there was a dude.
So this is still before or around the same time as like Mayans and all that?
This would be before Mayans.
Okay.
So 66 AD. So there's a guy, Simon Giora, Giora. He came around and decided that there was a Jewish uprising happening at the time against the Romans. So the Jewish people were getting together. They were fighting Romans, fighting against all of this. And he looked at that and looked at some of the writings from the Bible, and he absolutely decided that this was the end time battle predicted in Revelations. And he went around. He got a lot of people very, very interested in that. And of course, it wasn't the end times because we're here still now. And since that point, going back to 66 AD, it has just been a constant ongoing stream of people predicting when things were going to happen. And so I'm going to go through and just kind of like highlight a couple of the big ones because you can literally look every year there's been one.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to hit the big guys.
Okay.
So the first real kind of moment where everybody came together, like a lot of society, was 1000 AD. Everybody thought the big 1000 was going to be a big thing, just like 2000 with Y2K. People, 1K, I guess.
Yes. YK.
Yeah, so it was 1,000 years after Jesus died, or was born, I guess. 1,000 years after Jesus was born. And so they figured...
No, I thought AD was...
after death.
Yeah, that's not what the actual Latin words are, but...
Right.
That's what they tell you to...
Yeah. So the year 1000 came and nothing happened. And so they all got together, looked at the books, did some reading, and got back down. And they said it would actually be 1033, which would be, the year after 1,000 years after Jesus died.
We're just gonna push this back long enough to make a really nice bottle of scotch.
Yeah, 33 years. Bump it back a little.
It'll be all right.
Exactly. And then so a little bit after that, obviously nothing happened. I mean, I'm not going to keep saying nothing happened.
Obviously nothing happened.
Obviously,
we
happened.
don't know that.
We don't. We could be all dead right now. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Whether we're in a matrix or what's happening. So Pope Innocent III came around and he said that the world would end exactly 666 years after the rise of Islam, which happened in 618 AD. So basically 1284 AD.
I wonder where he got those numbers from.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, there's a lot of this numerology where people just kind of put numbers together out of nowhere where they're like, yeah, the year 1000 happened. And then if I add 33 for how old Jesus was, 666 for, the mark of the beast, and then 18 for a good year of Glenn Levitt, we're at 2020, so like people just do this, and it's not surprising. And then, but during this whole time frame, the world's still crappy. Like bad things are happening. So, in the 1300s, mid 1300s, the bubonic plague came through, which, we're familiar with the soft open of the bubonic plague now with COVID.
Yep.
And from 1346 to 1351, the Black Death came through and basically killed 1 out of every 3 people in the world. And so a lot of people were coming around and saying, this must be it. This is the apocalypse. And I mean, honestly, maybe it was. I mean, 1 out of 3 people dying is a lot.
That's a fuck ton of people.
33% of everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, think of every room you've walked into. If 1 out of 3 people died in that room, I mean,
it'd be almost 3 billion people if it was today.
Yeah, it would end every way of thinking about the world today. I mean, first of all, just think about cleaning up all those bodies. I mean, that would be massive.
Yeah.
And back then, obviously, there weren't as many people. I don't know how many people there were in 1300. Definitely not 7 billion.
Yeah.
But still, 1 out of 3 of them dying is a big problem.
Oh, in my head, I was like, it's got to be approaching 9 billion now or some shit. I haven't looked in a long time.
I think it's like 7 and 7.6 or somewhere.
Yeah. Because when we were kids, it was 6.
Yeah.
That was the big number, 6 billion.
Yeah.
But now it's like 7 and some change.
It's going to be like 12 next week. It just keeps going.
I mean, yeah. Humans definitely reproduce that fast.
Right. So everybody was basically saying the Black Death was the end of the world. And it wasn't. Just a lot of people died and it was horrible. And we got a little bit better at fighting disease. But then the non-Ninja Turtle Renaissance painter Botticelli came out of nowhere in 1504 and stated that it was definitely going to be the end of the world. Most likely just because he was mentally ill. But everybody listened to him because he made that really cool painting of the Virgin Mary coming out of the shell in the ocean. And so
I don't know that I can put my mind's eye on that one.
That specific painting?
Yeah. I'll have to go look it up.
Yeah, you would. It's instantly recognizable. You would see it and be like, "Oh, yeah, it's
that one."
Yeah, exactly.
Sick.
So, I mean, this guy was like, he was on the short list of Ninja Turtle names, and he just didn't make it. But he was. Botticelli would have been a good Ninja Turtle. It's a good name.
Yeah, I wonder what weapon he would. Okay, if Botticelli was a Ninja Turtle, what weapon would he have had? Throwing stars? No.
A pressure cooker full of BBs.
You keep saying Botticelli, and I'm over here like Botticelli, like the Bertollis.
Wait, didn't one of the Ninja Turtles have throwing stars?
No,
none of them had that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't read every single Ninja Turtles comic ever, so I can't say that none of them had ninja stars. But that to me is more of like a ninja accessory.
It does seem
than it is like an actual. Well, we had nunchucks, weapon.
The staff.
Yep.
Sword.
Yep. And sai.
And the size, yeah, that's what it was. That was the 4th one.
So yeah, and there's a bunch of other ninja weapons that they could have used.
Maybe like a pike, like the long thing.
Oh, like the like from that movie, The Last Samurai, where he's got like the staff with the spear with the like tiger flag hanging on it.
Exactly.
And stuff like that.
Maybe it's too big to run around in the
sewers.
With.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it maybe would have been like a flail or something.
A flail would be pretty good.
Or I don't know. That would still be too similar to the staff. See, this is probably what Kevin Eastman, and I'm blanking on his name right now. The other Laird.
Yeah.
Had like a hard time. They were like, what weapons? Like, I don't know.
It's funny, like we ascribed that they were sitting around like trying to figure this out, but they were probably just like, whatever, write it down. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Well, fun fact. the very first, it's actually impossible to authenticate an original version of the very first episode of Ninja Turtles.
You mean issue, like the black and white comic?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. It's because it was hand drawn on computer paper and then reproduced and collated and stapled at Kinko's.
Cool.
So
that's awesome.
It's impossible to authenticate. The artists can't even authenticate an original.
I had a ton of the early ones, and then I always thought it was so weird that they became like the pizza eating cartoon thing.
Yeah.
It always weirded me out.
Yeah. There was also only 3 Ninja Turtles originally, and they were black and white. And then the second version of the Ninja Turtles, there was still 3, but they were noir style. It was all
right.
It was all red and then black and white.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember when they added the 4th turtle. There was a girl turtle at some point. And then in the 90s, when they tried to childify it, is when they were like, we got to be able to tell each other apart. So we're going to make them different colors and shit. And the original comic was real brutal. They killed people.
It was. It was.
Cool.
I don't know how, well, my parents didn't really have a say in it. I just brought them home from the comic store. But like, I just remember reading it. It was great. You know, it was that and Ronin and Cub was the other big comic that I really
I've never
liked.
heard of that one.
Oh, it was the exact same style, except it was like a guy carrying around a 2-year-old. And he was like,
interesting.
He was like this brutal killer who had no master, and he was going on doing his thing.
Okay.
Great. Yeah. I might have, I'll go through my old stuff. I think if I have some, I'll bring them over to you.
Anyway, back to the Botticelli apocalypse shit.
Right. So Botticelli doing his thing. And then after that, we had, Martin Luther, the dude who nailed his thesis to the door.
Yeah.
Big
who
guy.
Founded the Lutheran Protestant
Lutheranism
group. Yeah.
sort of dude. So he decided that the end of the world would occur no later than 1600. Like he went on the record. He was very adamant about this. And obviously, once again, didn't happen. And even Christopher Columbus came around and he put forth his own theory that the world was created in 5,343 BC. I'm not entirely sure how he came up with that number, but he was also very adamant that the world would last exactly 7,000 years. And so if you remove the year 0, that means that in the year 1658, everybody was done. And so, like, what I wonder about that one is, were people sitting around in 1658 being like, did we take the 0 away? Did we add the 0 back? Is the world going to actually end next year? You know, it's all of these things, again, are numerology, shifting numbers around, trying to figure it out, and just on and on and on. And you can randomly just pick any number between 0 and like the mid 1800s. And there would just be some sort of pope or preacher or king or some dude talking about how the world was going to end in a couple years in biblical fire, and it would suck. And it didn't end in the mid 1800s. There's still people today saying the exact same thing. We've just gotten a lot more creative with it these days. So like we've kind of pushed aside the whole like, oh, the angels are going to blow the trumpet and the doors are going to unfold and everybody's going to die. We've actually kind of like gotten into it a little bit more. And so in 1910, the first real kind of like non-Jesus apocalypse idea came around at the hands of Camille Flammarion, which is a pretty amazing name, who said that the appearance of Halley's Comet would, and this is a direct quote, would impregnate the atmosphere and snuff out all life on the planet. But not the planet itself. The planet would be fine. And if you took the comet pills that Flammarion was selling, you would be protected against the toxic gases.
Sick. Dude, is this the first like pyramid scheme?
It's probably pretty close. Like,
let me sell you some fake shit, cause comet toxic killing people shit.
Dude made some good money off of it.
Did he?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty easy to sell that kind of stuff back in the day. You could just be like, hey, your humors are bleeding out. And people are like, oh my God, give me snake balls to put on my face. And it just worked. And like,
Snake balls.
and everybody's just like, yes, here's $1, which was like $100.
Yeah, it was a ton of money.
Right. So that was 1910. Jumping forward a little bit, on December 21st, which keep in mind December 21st, because that comes up a lot. 12/21 is a really big theme for the apocalypse.
Okay.
Always returns. That may be a predictor because 12/21. That was the Mayans. Everything else is like it's all in that realm.
Okay.
So December 21st, 1954, there was a woman named Dorothy Martin who led a UFO cult called the Brotherhood of the Seven Rays, which amazing band name. And they were absolutely convinced that the world would be destroyed by terrible flooding on December 21st, 1954. And yeah, they went all the way up until that date, telling everybody they knew, going through cities, putting up signs, shouting from rooftops, world's going to end. And then obviously December 22nd, 1954 came around and, no horrible flooding. And there's a really amazing book called When Prophecy Fails, which I would highly recommend to people.
See, now that's a great song name.
When Prophecy Fails?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the book, When Prophecy Fails, great song name, outlines exactly what happened to the Brotherhood of the Seven Rays, which I don't know. I like that name. So it outlines what happened to them after their prediction of the world would end. So they basically go through and talk about how they all turned on each other. Everything changed, and it was great. So, I mean, not for them, but for readers who want something entertaining, it was great. So, yeah, so December 21st repeatedly comes up with Mayans, preachers, floods, aliens, all that stuff. This is one that, John, you've brought up to me many times. The Mayans.
Yeah.
December 2012. This is a favorite of the podcast. And so
I got all nervous that day.
We all were. I was working in a warehouse in Compton. I worked for a mountain bike company.
Nice.
And I was their digital marketing guy. And it was that day. And we had tried to talk the guy into giving us the day off, and he wouldn't. And we were sitting around like just kind of keeping our heads down, like listening to the news, wondering what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And I mean, we all knew nothing was going to happen, but did we all know nothing was going to happen? It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
It was definitely kind of a weird
day. No, I definitely got a bunch of weird feelings that day. Like, I was 2 years post college. I went to some of my fraternity brothers' house to like have New Year's Eve shit.
Okay.
I can remember like laying on or like sitting on this like really weird multicolor velvet 70s couch pull-out that they had for some reason, and then just like I don't know, just getting kind of freaked out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I was sitting there, I was kind of halfway, probably frat boy level hammered, and I was sitting on this couch, and I was just like, "We're all gonna die." I pretty much, and like I was like, I don't remember. Did I fall asleep at midnight? Did I wake up? Like, what happened? Am I alive? Like, did we die? Did everything blink out of existence but then reappeared in existence? Like, I was like, I don't know. I was like asking myself all these like psycho questions where I was just like,
yeah, it was a weird day.
What's going on, man? I'm freaking out.
Exactly. There were a lot of kind of like, I'm going to put up some air quotes here, normies who even that day, they were like, what's going on?
Just kind of,
do you know what's happening here today? What's going on?
Just walking around Target. Hey, Karen, do you know what's going on? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But something's weird.
Yeah. Like it felt a little weird. I wonder, I haven't looked, I don't know, but I wonder if on that day, if like the stars were aligned a little weird, or if like there was some sort of like, I don't know. I don't fully buy into that stuff, but like,
or if the Mayans just did their math wrong and it was supposed to be 2021.
Yeah. So let's get into that. So, researchers today, like as of today, 2020, are basically saying that the end of the calendars, which they were called like Bactunes, that was, I'm probably pronouncing it horribly wrong. So the Bactunes were the cyclical calendars. So like every once in a while, the calendar would end, a new one would start. And the way the Mayan calendar was planned out it was a long calendar, like thousands of years. And so when it ended, it was the end of the 13th Bactun. So like obviously there were 12 before that, going all the way back to prehistory. And they cyclically cycle through these things. So it's very much like the way our calendar is now. So like if we took our Gregorian calendar that we use and look at it January, February, March, you could carry that on for forever.
Right.
You could literally just put it in Excel and keep dragging, and it would go on for all of eternity.
Right.
And there wouldn't be a point where it would end. The Mayan calendar is very similar. So the cycles could just keep repeating, and there didn't seem to be research. Okay, and I'm air quoting this again. Researchers today feel like there was no ending that was supposed to happen at the end of the 13th. It was basically the Mayans just saying
we're out of stones on a wall to draw this on.
Exactly. Like it's 2012. They're in 600 AD, and they're like, do we really need to keep going with this?
Do we need
you guys get the
600
gist, right?
And however many years of calendars on the wall?
Right. They're like, listen, we're dying now.
I don't even have my calendar from this year.
Right.
You know what I mean?
If I didn't have my phone, I wouldn't have a calendar at all.
Yeah.
So basically there's this Mayan scholar named Mark Van Stone who said there's nothing in the Mayan or Aztec or ancient Mesoamerican prophecies that suggests that they prophesied a sudden or major change of any sort in 2012. So he's pretty convinced that it was BS. And so he's saying the notion of a quote unquote great cycle coming to an end is completely a modern invention. And in 1990, Mayanist scholars Linda Scheel and David Friedel argued that the Maya did not conceive this to be the end of creation, as many have suggested in the past. And so, but going back to the 1500s, people have used that dating of the end of the Mayan calendar as a big problem. And so then we have to ask, are these scholars just saying that to say that? What's the purpose behind why they're saying that? Because there's other thoughts to it too.
Well, I mean, end of the world since 66 BC?
Yeah.
Pop culture.
Sure.
It's cool.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
We'll find a thing. Hey, there's this really obscure calendar that the Mayans had that ended this day. That'd be a sick time to say the world ends. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hit subscribe, jump on it.
Hit that bell button. Make sure you get notified. Slap like now.
Yeah, exactly.
Slap like on my 2012 theory. And I don't know.
100%. Yeah. So they spent specifically those three scholars, Linda Scheel, David Friedel, and Mark Van Stone, spent a lot of time basically poo-pooing the whole idea of, the world was going to end, and the Mayans thought that was an ending, and the Mayans considered it the end of the Bactun. And, a lot of people buy that as it was just a cycle and it ended at that point. But there's a whole other possibility, because there's a thing called the Tortuguero Monument in Tabasco, Mexico. So Tabasco, like sauce, down in Mexico. And inside of this gigantic location, there's a thing called, it wasn't called at the time, but the archaeologists who have found it have dubbed it Monument 6. And it's one of the big descriptions of the 13th Bactun. And so there's actually a poem carved into this monument along the base. And here's what it says. It will be completed the 13th Bactun. It is 4 a jaw, 3 konkan. No idea what any of that means. And scholars don't know what that means. It's just a row of gibberish. Obviously it's not gibberish. They know what it meant. We don't know what it meant. And below that it says, and it will happen a seeing. It is the display of Bolon Yakte and a great investiture. Investiture meaning, issue, problem. And so the real question is, when you go back and you look at that, and we'll post this little poem we'll put it on Patreon and Twitter or whatever. When you look at that, there's a line right there that stands out that's Bolon Yakte, which again, probably pronouncing that wrong. Sorry, correct me on social media, please. So what is Bolon Yakte? So not much is known about the god Bolanyakte. We know he was a god because of the way he was depicted. According to an article by minus Marcus Eberl and Christian Prager in the British Anthropological Reports, his name is composed of the elements 9, like the number 9, octave, and God. Confusion in classical period inscriptions suggests that the name was already ancient and unfamiliar to contemporary scribes when they were creating these engravings. So all the way back to like when people were making Monument 6 in Tabasco, they're basically saying that the people who carved that didn't really have a full understanding of what this god represented. They just knew that it was, 9 and God. And so he also appears in all these other inscriptions from Palenque, Usumacinta, and Lamar and he's described as a god of war, conflict, and the underworld. So he pops up in all these other engravings.
So he's like Mayan Hades,
sort of, yeah. So, but like it would be Mayan Hades if the people who were writing about Hades only knew that he was a jerk and didn't really know a lot about him. He was just this like super scary ancient thing that they heard stories about when they were a kid.
Gotcha.
So it's this even older kind of ancient aliens kind of like thing. And in a lot of these depictions where he's turned up in these different areas of Usumacinta and Lamar, he's portrayed with a rope, like a noose around his neck, like a straight up noose. And in others, he has an incense bag. And together with these, it signifies a sacrifice. And these specific elements are symbolic of an end of cycle of years. And so his appearance wrapped up with the kind of one major appearance of like the discussions of the 13th Baktun kind of sums up that, like, yeah, maybe him showing up as a symbol of the end of cycle of years has to do with the 13th Baktun. Like, so there might be a lot more there than we're just thinking about and, looking at.
Yeah. So what you're saying is when Bolanyakte shows up at the end of the 13th Baktun, what that really means is doom coming.
Party's over. Yeah.
Okay.
And so
when he shows up, it means the cops came.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, that's what the illustration shows. Like whenever they show him, he's a dude messing stuff up. He's like the god of war. He's a god of conflict. And then his major connection is to the end of their calendar. So there is very much reason to think that he might be a symbolic thing very similar to the Antichrist, in Revelation. Like he comes back, he is the dragon or the demon of Revelation who's going to, overtip those trumpets and screw everything up and end the world.
Right.
So a lot of modern Mayan scholars say no connection. That's just not a big deal. But who knows? That's very much could be there. And so my opinion on the whole like Mayan 2012 thing, obviously the world didn't end in 2012. Maybe. I mean, it could have. Who knows? As far as I know, sitting here drinking a beer and talking about this, it doesn't seem to be the end. But who knows? Bolanyakte could have come down and turned the lights off.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Maybe Bolanyakte is just a lizard person wearing a cloak. Who knows?
Possible. I mean, I'm open to anything. And then, I mean, moving on from the Mayan apocalypse, the 2012 thing, there's lots of kind of far future predictions of what's going to happen to the world. Every 100 million years, the Earth is slammed by a horrible meteor storm, which pretty much kills all life. So
right,
we're screwed then.
I mean, that will absolutely happen. It's not a question really of will,
right?
Life as we know it on Earth.
That's happening
at some point.
That's a fact.
It's not a question of when or if. It's just when. Like, is it, 100 million years from now because of asteroids, or is it a number? I think we're going to go into what we think, or
Yes.
like what the realistic modern causes of the
Right.
apocalypse could be. So I'm not going to say anything
Yeah.
about that now. Let's just keep going.
But I mean, you're right. There is a definite fuse burning on the end of the world, and if we don't get hit with these meteors in 100 million years, the sun's going to expand and eat us in 4 billion years, and the heat death of the universe is going to happen a Google years after that. Google being like, what is it, 10 with 1,000 zeros after it? No, it's
I don't know.
10 with 100 zeros, I think. Yeah. So the world's definitely ending at some point, but it's more fun to talk about Bol Yakte, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, there's all kinds of things we could do to kill ourselves.
oh, yeah.
So
obviously.
that to me seems way more likely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could step in front of a bus tomorrow. You know, it's.
Well, I don't mean you.
You mean globally?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean like not your personal apocalypse.
Right.
I mean like the extinction of everything.
Yeah, humans
on our Earth.
Yeah, and I mean it could be COVID Part 2, which is brewing right now as we see. You know, Colorado has its first case.
Great.
Yeah, exactly. That's fun. And, you know, we've been looking at that. And so, you know, that's kind of the crappy real part of the apocalypse. But there's also a very fun part of the apocalypse that doesn't get enough credit. And I think a huge part of my childhood was growing up watching apocalyptic films and reading apocalyptic books.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like basically everything I know is from that. You know, so
yeah. I mean, the first book that I ever really got into and read all on my own in one day was The Giver, which is a dystopian post-apocalyptic.
I saw
book.
that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that book. It's great.
Yeah, it's wild. And then like at the end, he comes into a normal world or whatever it is.
No, it's so The Giver's the one where they can't see in color.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was mixing it up with the other. Yeah. I was mixing up with a different one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very weird story. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, and there's endless apocalyptic movies, books. So, I mean, because I think that's a little bit more fun, let's kind of get into that. Like, you know, you love that book.
Yeah. Giver's a great book.
What's your favorite apocalyptic movie?
This one's so hard. I always have the hardest time when people
tough.
are like, what's your favorite X? Like if I don't have a very clear
Have an opinion. Be a man.
Yeah. Favorite apocalyptic movie. I know we kind of talked about this earlier and I was leaning towards Armageddon.
Which I didn't even have on my list. Oh, no, I did.
But yeah, but now that I'm like kind of thinking about it, because sometimes Jake doesn't tell me what the questions are going to be until like maybe like an hour before the show. And I can like kind of start thinking about it, which surprises me. So it's not like I have a list. But I feel like there's got to be other apocalyptic movies that I like V for Vendetta.
Great.
I love that movie. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many good like apocalypse.
Well, in V for Vendetta, didn't the government start a virus and use it to kill everybody basically?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, that's 100% true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were doing like genetic experiments like the Nazis did.
Yeah. Which is the V, that was his backstory, right? He was basically like a super soldier.
Yeah. He was in prison cell number 5. Which was a Roman number. Yeah. I read the graphic novel when I was a kid. A long time ago. I don't remember fully though. Yeah. But like, I mean, there's a special place in my heart for Armageddon. I was a kid when that movie came out. It was, you know,
you just like
campy Bruce Willis. Yeah. Liv Tyler was so cute. I was all in love with her. Ben Affleck hadn't turned into Bennifer and became a huge douche yet.
He wasn't Batman yet.
Yeah. And at the time, I mean, I was basically extremely into Metallica and Aerosmith. So when I was like, oh, Aerosmith doing the soundtrack for this, and all of a sudden it was like, I don't want to close my eyes. I don't want to fall asleep because I miss you, baby. And I don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah,
you know, I was just
Cowboys.
I was like, oh, yes. Aerosmith doing the soundtrack for a Bruce Willis movie. It's going to be awesome. And I've seen the movie 100,000 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, not my favorite, but it's a great movie. Like, you know, it's
stacked with like great actors too.
It was. I liked how, do you remember around that time frame, like whenever there was a good movie idea, there was suddenly like the doppelganger movies. Like there was the one with Morgan Freeman where there was also the giant. I think it was.
Wasn't there? Was that like Sum of All Fears? That was the nuke movie.
No, it wasn't a new movie. It was a straight up like there was a comet coming and they had to blow it up.
Deep
Leone.
Impact. Deep Impact.
Yeah, Tia Leone was in it.
Yeah,
Morgan
yeah.
Freeman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evie.
I remember I saw Apocalypse like 900 times, but I never saw Deep Impact until way later. Because that's the one where like the meteor hits the earth, but it hits in the ocean, and it's the giant wave is gonna flood the whole earth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But they always did that. The movies, the Apocalypse movies always came in twos. Like there was the
and then there was always like the knockoffs, like I don't know. Well, not really knockoffs, but I feel like there was like one or two. There's like an Apocalypse movie that was like huge, but then it was followed up by like one or two or three more Apocalypse movies that were like they should have gone like direct to VHS, but they were in the theater.
Yeah,
you know, they would have been like direct to Netflix,
direct to Pirates Bay.
Yeah, direct to Pirates Bay. Yeah.
So I mean. When I was growing up, Mad Max was hands down my favorite movie.
Oh yeah, Road Warrior.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, it was easily because I was like a huge car guy, and
the V8 Interceptor with the servo with the
supercharger. It was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. Like it was, and
he has to flip the switch and the blower turns on. I'm like, it
was the coolest thing ever.
So cool, yeah.
And like I wanted that car since I was a kid, and it was, just outstanding. And the idea behind it was a very kind of normal apocalypse. Like they didn't show the end of the world. Like you just kind of knew something happened. And
this was like the life after.
Yeah, stuff wasn't cool.
Yeah.
And and then they went into like number 2 and number 3 and then
Tina Turner.
Yeah, Tina Turner's there and
so
like Master
great.
Blaster. Like, it's just like
2 men enter.
Yeah.
1 man leaves.
Yeah.
Thunderdome.
Yeah. And like who rules Bartertown? Like it's just like
Master Blaster.
They were so cool. Like it was just such a great movies. Now I guess we're not allowed to like.
And I love the like
anymore,
leather chaps and the just like the super not. At this point you just call that style Mad Max style,
right? 100%.
But like when like I could just imagine people watching them, in the 80s or whenever they came out, and just being like, oh my god, like. The leather and the skin and the weird cars and the and the Tina Turner with the hair and the and just all of that stuff. And just being like super blown away by like how cool it was. Yeah. And like the the 2 Mad Maxes were definitely a lot more like they'd figured out, they grabbed onto something cool and made them like campy and weird.
Yeah.
But Road Warrior is not that way.
No.
Like that movie's very serious. It's very brute. Like it's not a fun.
It really is. Yeah.
It's not nearly as fun as like Thunderdome and stuff.
Definitely not. No, it's not like you can't really call Thunderdome goofy.
It's campy,
but it definitely is. Yeah.
It's culty.
But Road
Warrior,
like a cult classic. They're like running over babies with motorcycles and stuff.
Raping
it's like,
people.
Yeah. It's like really dark.
Very,
And like Toe Cutter is like this really like scary dude,
Yeah.
And it's not even Toe Cutter who's the scariest. Like Bubba, the number 2 guy, who like the younger guy is like really scary because he's the one who does all the killing and like the scary stuff,
Yeah.
And that movie really makes you think about how people will behave after the end of the world when like cops aren't around, how those things happen.
Yeah. Like The Road is a good example.
Absolutely.
Of that. Because that's one of the most brutal post-apocalyptic, like people being bad to other people kind of.
And I highly recommend the book by Cormac McCarthy. He wrote The Road. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning novel. It's one of my favorite novels I've ever written. Yeah. And the movie adaptation's great. It was really well done. And they leave a lot out of it. Like the book is way more brutal than the movie. They do leave, and I'm not one of those guys who's like the book is always better, but like
it's just different.
They left a lot out, yeah. And
I mean they have to,
with
books. Unless they were going to make The Road like a 3-part series, which
like the 90s when they did The Stand, It's like
2 hours of The Road was more than enough.
It's plenty
for a movie.
It's like it bums you out. Like you get the point.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and like The Road, they kind of never really talk about what happened to the world. They don't bring it up that much. Like when you read the book, you kind of realize that like a super volcano went off and it kind of just ended everything because the ash cloud kind of shut down stuff. And you know, you get that.
Yeah.
You know,
so what's your favorite like of like the modern ones, like genres of the apocalypse movies? Because to me, there's like a handful, right? So there's zombie stuff where a virus happened.
Yep.
Right. Then there's technological stuff like Terminator would be a good example. Zombie stuff, a good example would be like 28 Days Later or The Happening or stuff like that, which I think that was a really interesting one because it was the plants virus attacking people.
Or was it Marky Mark?
No, it was that guy Chris Pine.
Yes.
It was like young Chris Pine before he got big and did Star Trek and shit.
Yeah.
And then there's like the stuff is going to hit a weather thing. Like the super volcano, the thing is going to hit the planet.
Yep.
It's going to be ice age, like all those kind of ones.
Yeah. But then there's like The Day After Tomorrow, where like climate change snuck up on everybody.
Yeah.
And then The Knowing was Nicolas Cage, when like he had that huge puzzle to do, and then all of a sudden aliens came and stole the rabbits.
What?
Just
did I miss this one?
Just watch it. It's crazy. It's like a really weird movie.
Okay.
Yeah. He like, so they find a time capsule underneath the school, and the time capsule makes his kids start acting weird.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden he starts finding repeating numbers.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden aliens come and steal all the rabbits on the planet. It's definitely weird. It doesn't make sense. It's not a very good movie, but it's fun.
Yeah. What are the other the We Kill Ourselves with Nuclear Weapons?
Sure, yeah. What was the one where the Mist, based on the Stephen King book? Was that the one with Marky Mark?
I think wait. Was he in an apocalypse movie? Yeah, what was the premise? Do you know?
The premise was they were like at a cabin on a lake, and then all of a sudden like it got really misty, and there were like weird alien bugs in the mist.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's based on a Stephen King book. It's really messed up.
I don't know.
Well then you have other ones like WALL-E, you know.
Oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about that.
We just overtrashed
like
the planet.
Fun apocalypse.
Yeah,
stuff.
the fun, like we just goofed around. Now we're in space.
Yeah, or like Total Recall, or like the ones where people go to space instead of staying. Like WALL-E and Total Recall would be in the same category.
Yeah,
because it was world ended, overpopulated.
Yeah.
Or we trashed it and then people left.
Yeah. And then
like that movie that just came out on Netflix, the Midnight Moon or
I haven't
whatever
watched
it's called.
it yet.
It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like A++, right?
Sure.
Great. But I mean, very solid watch. I had a lot of fun. Like
I'll watch a C- if it's a fun topic.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I didn't find the twists to be like you know, and like really surprise me or like grab me like a early M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong twist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was good. I thought it was a great movie. I love George Clooney. He directed it too. Like I thought it was really clever.
It's like him and the little girl in Antarctica or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I do want to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's space stuff going on.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was really cool.
And then you've got the giant monster ones. You've got like Cloverfield.
Okay, yeah, and Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Godzilla.
Do Godzilla's count? Did he ever?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he
trash the
doesn't
planet?
destroy. Well, I mean, Pacific Rim would be similar to Godzilla.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
Yeah.
Same. Well, and it depends. Like, if you're thinking about Godzilla the anime, then yes, because they had to leave the Earth.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and then they come back. And there's tons of apocalypse stuff in anime too, like people overpopulate the world and they have to go live on like a space station as digital beings, and then you have to be downloaded into a body they build for you to send you back to Earth to do missions and shit. Like, you know, I don't know. There's all kind of weird crap like that.
So I just finished reading this trilogy of books by a writer named A.G. Riddle, who's he lives here in Raleigh.
Oh, cool. All right.
And so shout out Raleigh
you
native.
See him you never know. You could have run into him at Wegmans and didn't even know.
Very possible. And his books are like highly advertised and he sold like 1 million copies of this trilogy. And it's basically like aliens come and blot out the sun and the world freezes.
So basically what Bill Gates is trying to do right now.
Yeah, exactly.
With the sun blocking thing.
100%. And so they have to like, as simple little humans, figure out how to like fight these aliens, you know?
Yeah.
And it's got a twist that'll blow your doors off. Like you don't even get it. And
Wow. Okay.
the writing is okay. It's good. Like, he's a decent writer. But even if he was a garbage writer, the twist would be worth it to read.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. Not that this is a pitch for Kindle Unlimited, but that's how I read it. It was
free reading.
Yeah. It's like $8 a month, $9 a month, whatever. But yeah, anyways, highly recommend it. Great apocalypse story. The frozen earth, nuclear winter kind of thing is definitely like a big type of apocalypse. So that's the different movies. But, when you look at actually how the apocalypses can happen, we looked at the roads, super volcano, Independence Day, we didn't even touch on, which is aliens.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Aliens. How did I forget?
We skipped over aliens entirely, which sucks.
Dumb.
But Melancholia, I don't know if you saw that movie, which was bouncing around. That's a whole like planet Nibiru, like this other planet swings into the solar system and smacks into Earth. Great movie. Highly recommend it.
All right.
It's on Netflix.
Have to check it out.
Highly recommend it. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna have to go put it on my list.
Very weird movie. Totally recommend. So we've got the aliens, all that other stuff. So the types of apocalypses. Let's just go through. I want to hear how many you can name.
Oh my god. All right.
So we'll put you to the test.
All right. So aliens. AI technological type stuff like Terminator.
Yep.
Global warming type stuff.
Yep.
Nuclear type stuff. Apocalypse. Apocalypse.
End of world type stuff.
End of the world type stuff. No, like atomic nuclear winter.
Yeah.
Type stuff. Zombies. Does that kind of combine with pandemic virus type stuff?
I think so. I think
Okay.
in the real world,
Okay.
zombies and pandemic kind of get shoved together,
Overpopulation.
which I think is a very real one. Yeah.
I already said climate change, which makes me think of Waterworld.
Yeah.
I love that. That's been nominated the worst movie in history,
It
I
has,
think. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
actually love that movie. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
What else? Well, I guess does overpopulation include like running out of food?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's kind of looped in. Yeah.
I think all right. I think that's it. I'm out.
Okay.
I'm tapping.
You're tapping out. All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty good because realistically, hopefully only one. Hopefully none of those happen.
Right.
Right. So then there's a bunch of other ones. And I could probably literally list them all day long. So there's things like the Big Crunch.
What's that?
So the Big Crunch is essentially the opposite of the Big Bang. So the Big Bang is the universe starts expanding.
Oh, this would be like a giant black hole sucks everything in and blinks everything out of existence.
Essentially, yeah. Like
Okay.
it all just immediately shrinks back down, which on the scale of the universe sucks for little ants like you and me. you know?
Literally sucks.
Exactly. There's a theory of cataclysmic pole shifting. The poles tend to shift sometimes.
Yeah. This would be like magnetic poles flip flop.
Exactly. Yeah. North south flip, which has happened before. Like it's happened before, and horrible things happen when it does happen. Just massive waves, tidal imbalances, major problems. We talked about climate destruction, ecological collapse, the idea of gray goo. That is something that's coming down the pipeline. That's possible.
What?
Gray goo. Have you heard this one?
No.
Okay, so they just call it gray goo, but it's essentially a spin-off of like AI. So when you program AI, there's a thing you can do basically where you teach the AI to replicate and continue to build other like copies of itself.
Nope.
Yeah, you shouldn't do
I'm
that.
going to veto that one.
Highly recommend against it. Not do that. So, but one of the problems is when you teach AI to replicate, some people, if they don't put in the parameters correctly, can basically unleash AI, and AI will use humans and other things to make themselves grow. And what that essentially does is grind humans down into a gray goo because they use all of our pieces to make new versions of themselves.
I'm kind of like, I'm kind of speechless. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. So bad. Highly recommend against.
All right, I do not want to see a gray goo movie. like as interesting as that sounds, that sounds kind of like a Matrix. If we're looking at the end of the world part of the Matrix, where it's like,
I think it would be a step beyond what the Matrix did.
Okay, yeah, I'm not trying to see machines turn people into goo. That just sounds like a really terrible movie.
Yeah, so another entire different spin off of ecological problems is hypercanes. The idea that right now we have things like Hurricane Andrew and big hurricanes that are Category 5s. There's lots of theories that as climate change continues to go in a downward spiral, hurricanes can go to Category 7, 8, 9, and they will be.
And so we have like one hurricane that covers the entire of
East Coast
or the whole
country.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 200-mile-an-hour winds covering half of the United States for
300-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, 5 or 6 days at a time, So yeah, bad. That'd be bad. Meteors, impact events. We touched on Nibiru with the movie. Yeah, and then there's other ones that are currently in the process of happening, like ocean death. There's a large portion of the coral reefs in the ocean are currently bleaching, which basically means there's no nutrients or life in them anymore. So that affects the ocean in a very, very serious way. If you look at the big reefs off of Australia and South Florida, large chunks of those are just solid white now, which means there's no life in them anymore. So they're not providing the nutrients back into the ocean. It's not guarding the fish that live there, all those problems, which again, bad.
Reoxygenating the water.
Yeah. And, we're not helping that any further because of the gigantic piles of plastic that are the size of continents out in the middle of the ocean.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then, and then we've got World War III, super volcanoes, solar flares, all of these fun things. But so let me put the question to you. Out of all of these things that we've discussed, all of the possibilities, what do you think is the most likely way that the world's going to end?
Zombie apocalypse. No. The most likely way, I think it's going to be a blend of global warming and overpopulation, because I think those two things are going to hit each other at the same time.
I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty much where it's going,
Yeah. And I think the only one that could beat that would be nuclear war, because it's possible that by the time we actually get to the part where in the process of us getting to, climate destruction and overpopulation at the same time, we just end up nuking each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Or not even just nuking each other, just ground battles, fighting.
World War 5000.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
yeah.
There's no reason why that couldn't happen just as much too.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to end up being a number of things, because if we take climate change into effect, because that's going to affect a whole bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
A fight for resources, a fight for food,
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. War could break out because of that, and at that point it'll just accelerate the climate change. And then, I don't know, it just depends on how many people there are and like whether or not the war kills people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It could be tough. And at the same time, with the number of people, if we get, a COVID Mark 3 or Mark 4, and then we have another Black Plague situation. I mean, I don't know. I mean, at this point, is there even a way back from climate change and stuff like that without just like blinking half of the population off the, you know what I mean? Like,
was
I don't
Thanos
even
right
know.
all along?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to think about, because as people who care about people, it's hard to go, the world would be better if there were less of us.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from a scientific perspective, at some point we're going to hit the carrying capacity of the planet. That's just a fact.
Right. And we're pretty close.
So it's like, what do we do about that? You know what I mean? And that, to me, those are the most likely, and they're preventable. It's just the question is, what lengths are we willing to go? And I don't think people are willing to go to any length.
Yeah. And I mean, think about back during the bubonic plague when 1 in 3 people died.
I mean, and that was just to a lack of medical knowledge.
Right. And I mean, we have the medical skills now to save more people than that, but what if it's something more out of control? You know, I mean, my personal view, I think it's going to be some sort of pandemic tied to like global fighting, like infighting. I don't think it's going to be nuclear war, but I think it's going to be
biological war.
No, I think it's going to be a straight up like actual pandemic. Like, I think this future version of COVID is going to kick off something, and I think the superpowers around the world are going to start taking advantage of weak spots in the world, and it's just going to be endless wars.
Okay,
for resources.
I mean, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, it could, because China has a lot of people, and why not move into Mongolia? Why not move into India? You know, I mean, not that India is less populated, but like, why not start taking space and taking resources? You know, so I definitely think it's going to be a combination of those two things. That all being said, I think a really good depiction of what the end of the world could possibly look like is, did you ever see the movie Children of Men?
Yes.
Yeah. So super depressing movie.
Yeah. Like, I didn't like that movie, but you know,
yeah,
I saw it.
Yeah. I kind of hated the movie, but I hated it because of what it depicted more so than how it was depicted. But so the movie was basically a little far-fetched, but it was saying that there was no more fertility. Like, there was no children born for the last 18 years since the movie opened up. And one of the interesting things is, if you look at it today, all of our fertility rankings are down across the board. So researchers at the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation showed that the global fertility rate has halved to 2.4 in 2017, and their study, published in Lancet, projects that it'll fall below 1.7 in 2100 and closer to 1 by 2175.
One what? What's that number mean?
1 is basically it's a fertility rate of
like the rate at which we are multiplying the total population.
So 1
okay.
woman. What they say is basically that to have a healthy they call it replacement level fertility, is 2.1, which is 2.1 children per woman. Obviously, you can't have 0.1 kid, but this is like, you know,
on average.
Yeah, not average.
Yeah, math.
Exactly, maths. And so if replacement level fertility, which is 2.1, is sustained over a sufficiently long period, generations will exactly replace themselves. So obviously, for the past, ever, we've been way above 2.1 because we keep growing. We've been closer to like 3, 4, whatever we're at. And it's halved. It was 4.8 and it halved in 2017. So essentially it keeps dropping and populations are going to keep collapsing. And our population is going to shrink and shrink and shrink, which though might not be a horrible thing, because reports by leading scientists say that by 2050, more than half of the world's population is going to face 20 days a year of lethal heat. Lethal heat meaning over like 120. So if you have...
Yeah, that's too hot for me.
Yeah. I mean, half of the world's population doing that, that's like putting places like Toronto in danger of extreme heat. Places way up north that really don't get anything above 90.
Right.
They're going to be getting stuff above 110, and that's, obviously Fahrenheit.
Right.
So then on top of that, 20% of crops are going to be dying globally by that same time frame, by 2050. The Amazon ecosystem is predicted to completely collapse by 2050. In the summers, the Arctic will be entirely ice-free. Sea levels will rise by a foot, which will put most of where Americans live today underwater. And in the worst case, and this is a quote, the scale of destruction is beyond our capacity to model, with a high likelihood of human civilization coming to an end in 2050. I feel like that's a little bit of hyperbole because I think people underestimate how much suffering can still happen when the world comes to an end.
Right.
Looking at something like The Road, where there's going to be a lot of sorry people who are wandering the wasteland.
Right.
And I don't think that really brings civilization to an end, because how do you quantify when civilization ends? Does that mean the internet turns
if
off?
it's not like a global killer total impact type situation, then like society as we know it comes to an end,
Right.
but people continue to live on,
Yeah. And I mean, think about it, like society as we know it comes to the end. Like, does that mean you can't get any more Juicy Haze IPA? Is that when society ends, like as we know it? Or like, does that how it shifts?
There's no more McDonald's.
Right. Like, when you look back at history, as we talked about in the Skunk Ape episode, there was a thing called the Tobias reduction, which essentially was humans were brought down to almost 5,000 individuals globally because of a major like super volcano kind of situation.
Yeah.
And so like the human race almost got wiped out. But yeah, and we survived that. And here we are now making like a podcast drinking beer, So,
yeah, right.
Right. And so, best case scenario is it's just going to be hot as hell, and winter is going to start looking a lot like fall and summer, and there's going to be flooding everywhere on the planet. That's a best case scenario.
Get a boat
for 2050. Yeah. So the flat boaty, maybe a kayak.
Yeah. Or, I mean, worst case too, they're wrong.
And they could be. And, we're humans. We adapt. We'll water world. We'll build these like floating things.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do
guys
what we
with
do.
one eye will be, living on oil tankers and stuff.
I'll have to dig out my eye patch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I got about the end of the world.
Cool. Well, all right, guys. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Brewluminati. We will see you again next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Brewluminati. Our intro and outro music is written by Dungeness. Want to learn more about the topics we cover and who we are? Join us on Facebook and Instagram at Brewluminati Podcast for behind-the-scenes content and updates. Do you have mystical powers of insight or just questions, suggestions, and feedback? Reach out to us at thebrewluminati@gmail.com. Are you ready to immerse yourself into the inner circle? Visit patreon.com/Brewluminati Podcast. For the same price as a cup of coffee or sandwich you won't remember, because of mind control, you can join the Brewluminati and lift the veil on the true mysteries of the universe. Your membership to the Conclave unlocks access to our secret Discord server, bonus Patreon-only content, behind-the-scenes talks, and much more. Every dollar spent not only helps us reveal the truths of the world, but also frees us to make the show better, weirder, and allows us to go deeper and deeper into the void while funding our next beer run. When we're not talking conspiracies and beer, we're passionate about saving the forgotten puppies and kitties of the world. 10% of every dollar you donate goes directly to the Best Friend Pet Adoption Agency. They are a local 501c3 all-breed, all-foster cat and dog rescue that will save the life of a pet who never had a chance. Keep an eye out because we'll be posting pictures of the lives our listeners save. For more information on Best Friend Pet Adoption, head over to bfpa.org. Join us again next week for another episode of Brewluminati. We know you will, because again, mind control is real.